All right, we are back here on the Sky Guys podcast. We have finished the first two seasons of The Mandalorian on our Mandalorian rewatch here. Now we're going to go to Mandalorian season 2.5, also known as the Book of Boba Fett, the three episodes that Mando kind of just took over the show in the back half of the season. One of your hosts, Mike Phillips. With me, as always, the man who's voicing the narration every single week, Pete Consadori is here. Pete, how are you?
When I hit the Book of Boba Fett button on my Disney Plus today, it brought back so many bad memories that my hands started to shake.
Yeah.
And I'm obviously being overly dramatic here because the show wasn't that terrible, but it's probably the worst show in my ranking. But doing great. We're going to talk about the Mando part, so it makes it a little bit better. More excited about next week than I am this week's episode, but we'll talk about it.
Yep. Nick Freda right now, unfortunately, is dealing with some mass transit issues. He might be able to join us later on, but if he's not, we still have a great guest here for you today. The unofficial fourth Sky Guy, Nick D'Alessio, is here. Nick, how are you?
I'm doing great. When I hit the Book of Boba Fett on my Disney Plus was like, "Are you sure? Is that what you want to do?" And I was like, "Yeah, it's I know, but I'm doing the Mando one, so yeah, no, I'm doing good. Thanks for having me."
Yeah, it's funny because I just watched Mandalorian on our algorithm here, Pete. And it was funny because I looked at the list of the recommended shows, and like Book of Boba Fett was fifth on the list of recommendations
Pretty
for.
high.
Yeah, but like it's the direct follow up to this one, a Mandalorian season.
You know, we've talked about Book of Boba Fett an extensive to an extent that I feel like no one should. Make sure you check it out. It's on the Sky Guys pod if you subscribe, right? So you can listen to our thoughts there. We're fortunate enough to be talking about the relevant parts of Book of Boba Fett, and I have to say the fact that it even made some sort of recommendation list to me is wild.
Yeah, so,
Fifth, I don't care. It should just be like, don't worry about it.
yeah. I think the list I had on my Disney Plus was Andor was number one,
Valid,
then Rogue One,
valid.
then Skeleton Crew.
Oh, stretch. That's a stretch for number three. I got to be honest, but still good show, but maybe
Yeah.
not number three.
Then Clone Wars,
Valid.
and then Boba Fett was five.
The fact that Ahsoka was not above Boba Fett is kind of ridiculous.
Yeah, so
Even Obi-Wan. I could see Obi-Wan being over Boba Fett easy too, but whatever.
that was my algorithm anyway. So Pete, want to subscribe to the Sky Guys. Do so Apple Podcasts, Google Play, TuneIn, Spotify, Amazon, all usual suspects. Simply search for the Sky Guys here at podcast platforms. Find episodes there, and we're almost done with our rewatch journey through the Mando stuff here. We have Maul Shadowlord coming next month, so make sure you subscribe. There's some fun stuff coming there.
Yeah, some crazy content coming our way, hopefully, right? Like, obviously, we don't have much details when it comes to Shadow Lord other than the trailer and what we've heard in news. So we're very excited about that. Make sure you subscribe so you don't miss any of our reactions to it. Maybe I'll have a couple hot takes. You never know what's going to come out of my mouth, but yeah, make sure you're subscribed.
Yeah, so let's just hope that we don't have, like a 17-minute flashback and a 22-minute episode of Maul.
Let me tell you something. If Mandalorian comes back in Shadow Lord Maul, Shadow, whatever the hell it's called,
Yeah.
we know we're in trouble.
Yeah. Yeah, that's true. And Nick D, you remember how to follow us on social media?
Yeah, I believe it's at Sky Guys Podcast on most platforms, right? And then if you want to email, it's at skyguyspod@gmail. Did I
Yep.
do that right?
Yeah, that you
That
did
was
do
all
that.
that was all off the dome.
Yeah, that was correct. So we'll also go to our social media comment of the week and go to TikTok last week. We got a conversation about the Embo appearance in the Mando Grogu that drew a lot of attention across all of our social media channels here. This is a situation here for Captain Benny had a situation here because Nick Ferrer was very vocal about how like the Clone Wars is becoming homework now, required reading for you to watch these movies. Captain underscore Benny says, I don't think Mando and Grogu need deep cut knowledge to enjoy. Embo is a cool Easter egg for people who watch the Clone Wars, but for casuals newcomers, he's gonna be a dope bounty hunter to get introduced to the story. Cool character to get people intrigued and draw them in while the rest of us have a deeper level of intrigue. So, Nick D, we now get your take on this one here. Do you think that they rely too much on the Clone Wars stuff for the modern Star Wars stories?
For Star Wars stories in general, or for Mandalorian and Grogu specifically?
Like it's about like Mando, like in like the Mando verse in general, seems to be pulling a lot of Clone Wars things.
Yeah, I mean, so like I'm as plugged in as you guys are, so I love it. But like, I don't think you. I think I agree with this comment. I don't think it It doesn't like you don't need to know this stuff, but there's a lot there for you if you do know all this stuff. But I don't think it's like it's not necessary. It's not like I feel like watching Ahsoka, like you needed to watch Rebels, but like all this other stuff, it kind of just feels like, oh, I recognize that person, and if you don't know who they are, it doesn't take away from it.
Yeah, that was my point. I think when we had the conversation initially, Pete, because like this is not the Ahsoka situation where like if you don't know the Rebels people, you don't know who Thrawn is, you're kind of like lost a little bit for why they don't like each other and what the big issue is. But Embo showing up in this movie and not knowing who he is from Clone Wars, I don't think matters because I think he could just get the vibe like Captain May says, "Oh, cool bounty hunter, he's got the signature hat." Like maybe you get a few people go watch Clone Wars after learn more about this Embo guy.
Yeah, I'm 50-50. I kind of agree and disagree with this comment. I agree that Ahsoka was a different ball game. That was, Rebel season 5, I think, right? Or season whatever season they
Yep.
ended Rebels on. But I do think there's a lot to The Mandalorian that relies on the Clone Wars that makes it just 10 times better. If you knew the Clone Wars, if like Nick said, like if you're plugged in like we are, where we're in the content and we understand it. Next week is a perfect example. You don't need to know who Cad Bane is, but if you do know who he is, it just elevates that episode maybe from a 5 to like a 9 for you.
Yeah.
If you're doing like a grading system. So I agree in the sense that you're not going to need to know who Embo is. I'm sure it'll be fine. No one's going to be like, well, I don't know who this character is. I'm confused. But for people who have watched Clone Wars, it's going to elevate the experience for that viewer. And it happened in Mandalorian season 2. If you didn't know who Bo-Katan was, you were still fine. You understood what was going on. But the significance of the character, the dark saber, what she went through, you lose all of that if you haven't watched Clone Wars and you don't take those episodes as a high, in a higher regard like we would.
Yeah, it's funny you bring it up because the armor in the episode we watched today does address a lot of these things from the Clone Wars backstory. Like she does tell you what you need to know, but again, it's in the wrong show. It's a whole other separate discussion.
Well, let's talk about deep cut stuff, right? If people only watch Mandalorian and are like, I want to watch Book of Boba Fett, imagine the surprise when Grogu's back in season 3. They're like,
Yeah.
well, what happened? I don't understand, right? So, I mean, in theory, you still got to do your homework to keep up with the Mandoverse because they, like I said, threw him into the end of Book of Boba Fett. You would have never known if you didn't follow it.
Yeah, we'll get that. That is more of a next week conversation for sure. But we'll get to the Star Wars news here. Some fun stuff here. So I'll end the lid here since Nick Fry is I don't think he's gonna make it tonight. So according to a report from Variety, there are internal concerns at Disney that the Mandalorian Grogu Super Bowl commercial did not generate the kind of excitement for the movie that the marketing team was hoping for. And Nick, can't say I'm shocked by this, considering they gave you a very weird commercial with no trailer attached to it.
Yeah. We plug the other podcast. We talked about this on Just and the Suffering briefly, how like I was the people that I was watching the Super Bowl with, like there was like no blip, nothing on the radar that this was even gonna be a thing, that this was just a new Star Wars movie and starring the Mandalorian and Grogu. I think I don't know, it felt weird. Like even I keep saying people plugged in like us. Even I was kind of just like, this is weird. I don't know about this as a movie trailer. It didn't get me excited. So if it didn't get me excited, how is it going to get like a casual person excited, you know?
Yeah, and again, the trailer came 9 days later. They should have had that ready to go for Super Bowl Sunday and say, watch the trailer online. Like, not wait, make us wait 9 days for it.
Yeah, well, that was the criticism we had said, where like if you're gonna do like a kind of this cool niche film thing, then like at the end of it, be like, see the official trailer online or watch part two online or something. They didn't do any of that, which was very strange.
Yep. Keep going here. According to that same report, there's a sense that Star Wars Starfighter will connect more with fans, which cites people who have seen footage that big plays for Ryan Gosling's performance reveal that Sean Levy has, quote, recaptured the franchise's spirit of fun. And Pete, seems to be in line with our view on the podcast here. We seem to be very high on Starfighter.
Yeah, but I mean, was there to be high on? We have no information other than who's in it. We don't know
Like,
what it's about. We
like
know maybe the
all the news coming out here, they come out. We've always said, "Oh, this seems like a good idea." It seems like they got the right lessons.
I mean, sure, but I mean, the news is straight, has put us down the wrong path when it comes to media before. When it comes to movies and TV, it could be like, this is the best thing since sliced bread. You watch it, it's terrible. So I have high hopes for it, and I'll have a better understanding of what the movie is when we actually get like a trailer and see it. But, I take it with a grain of salt because you can report whatever you want before the actual general public sees it. You're not going to know if it's good or not.
Yeah. Let's go to the next thing here. we'll go back to our favorite show, The Acolyte, which is probably I think one of the few shows we rate like both at above in our Star Wars rankings here. Leslie Headless had an interview, and she was told in the script writing process by Pablo Hidalgo, a Lucasfilm advisor well versed in Star Wars lore, that Kiadi-Mundi's inclusion in the Acolyte did not break canon as long as he's not on the Jedi High Council at that point, since there was nothing in actual canon to that point indicate his date of birth or the longevity of his species. And Nick D, of all the criticisms we had of that show, I think the Kiadi-Mundi being there being a problem is one of the stupidest.
Yeah, so I was gonna say I think that whole Chiari Mundi thing kind of just felt like a whole nothing burger. I think people wanted to hate this show, and like the show had its faults, it had its flaws. We don't need to go into turn this into an acolyte bashing thing because there were some good parts about it too. But like Chiari Mundi was like literally the last thing I cared about when watching it. I was like, I don't know why we're making a big deal out of this, and the one line he says in the movies that contradicts everything, like. It felt very just a little too conspiracy theory. Like it's not a big deal. Him being in it didn't change anything for me, so I don't know why it was such a big deal.
Yeah, Pete, for me, this was like a who cares? Like I like of all things that were wrong on that show, that was not the one that got me angry the most.
That's exactly what I was going to say. Who cares? If we're nitpicking like a one-liner, like who cares?
Yeah. Who cares indeed? Let's go on with the next thing here. Ryan Gosling's interview with IO9. He decided to join the cast of Star Wars Starfighter to the enthusiasm of director Sean Levy and the project script, which helped him convince him to join a film franchise. Because Nick, I don't know if you're aware of this, he gets to play the same character twice in his career, so there's a chance that he could do a first here.
I did not know that about Ryan Gosling, but I guess yeah, I'm like thinking back, I don't know. Yeah, he hasn't done the same character more than once, so I I hope this works out well enough that it's fans like it enough and they want to make more because it's actually good. So yeah.
All right. Next, we get the relevant Boba Fett stuff. This literally came out day before we recorded on Thursday, March 5th. So I'll go ahead and throw some of this in here. Tim Morrison did an interview with Inverse where he said Lucasfilm reached out to him last year after he asked the fans to basically spam them asking for Boba Fett. They told him, quote, look, you've been put on the shelf, Boba Fett. We might open the jar later. And Pete, this is probably one of the craziest things I've ever heard like Star Wars and Lucasfilm do. That basically they had to call the actor and say, listen, like, stop giving your fans bug us. Like, your character still exists. You might come back to him later.
I mean, number one, it's a free country. He can say whatever he wants as long as he's not inciting violence. I'm sure it's fine. That's number one. Number two, I feel bad for the actor because like it wasn't his fault.
No, it was not.
It really wasn't his fault. I know we get on the case of the character, but like he did nothing wrong. He went and got booked for a show. He did phenomenal in Mando season 2. The show that they booked was subpar at best, and they kind of screwed the actor over. So I don't blame him for being like, "Hey, let's get this back. Let's show them what it should be." And again, for a company to be like, "Stop telling people to harass us." A, he's not forcing anyone to harass them or send in things. He's just saying, "Hey, if you want to see it, contact whoever you need to contact." I don't blame him, right? As long as, like I said, as long as he's not inciting violence or doing anything wrong in that sense, like against the law, it's a free country. Let him say to people, hey, contact Disney, get a show. It is what it is.
And Nick, I think the phrase is funny here. They basically make it sound like Boba Fett's like an actual actor. You're like, don't worry, we put it on the shelf, but at some point, we might play with the toy again.
Yeah, it's weird because it's like Tim Morrison didn't do anything wrong. Like I honestly, this probably isn't the right time to talk about this, but I'm like, I think if Book of Boba Fett didn't have the Mandalorian stuff and it was just like they didn't do the whole him taking over the town Power Ranger stuff, if it was just the flashbacks and that alone, I feel like it's not that bad. I feel like that's like a pretty decent movie or show. It's when they tacked on all this other stuff into the Mandalorian in it. That's when it like felt disjointed and kind of fell apart. So like that's not his fault. He shouldn't be penalized for the decisions that the studios made, but I guess that's Hollywood sometimes, right? I don't know.
Yeah, that's I guess the case here. And same interview. Mars said he just got the Book of Boba Fett air for up to 4 seasons during production, which is Pete's eyes just bugged out when he heard that one.
Well, it's the acolyte situation, right? Nick Frietta talks about it all the time. Why are you writing for a show that's going to be 4 or 5 seasons long? Write one good season and then see what happens. So it's just if they were going to do 4 more seasons of the product they gave us in season one, they wouldn't have made it past season two. I mean, they barely made it past season one. So,
Yeah, they didn't make it past season one. They got canceled.
well, I'm saying they barely made it past season one because 3 of the episodes are about the Mandalorian. That's the only reason why it like had some sort of relevancy.
Yeah, and I'll also point out here, Nick D, in terms of this one, I will defend Tim Morrison again here because, like, probably like, on set, the stuff he's working on, where they're trying to like humanize the Sand People. They're doing these like they're incorporating like Maori culture into like the dancing at the end of chapter two. Like, I'm sure it was looking at that stuff like, boy, this is great. This is enriching. I'm gonna like, there's a lot to story to tell you. And once you see the edit episodes, you're like, this is not what I envisioned it was gonna be.
Yeah, I mean that's what I was saying. Like, I don't think that version of the show, I don't think it was bad. I think it was like, it's what they did to it afterwards, whether it was like the studio was afraid or backlash or whatever, but like I think the version of the Book of Boba Fett that is just the flashbacks, the Sand People, the train heist, and then that's it. Like, I think it's a decent show. I don't know.
Yeah, and obviously they basically murder all the Sand People episode four. But it's like, okay, we're done.
Yeah, they just that's and it's not Tim Marston's fault, but yeah, it's I don't know. I don't know if it's a hot take to say that I think those parts of the show were good, but I think if that like because it kind of feels like that was the original vision of the show,
It was a
and
movie.
then yeah, and then they panicked, and then they were like, we got to bring the Mandalorian in here, and then what should have been the start of season three of Mandalorian, they now pushed in the Book of Boba Fett, and like I don't know. It blows my mind that like there's people out there that make so much money that are like, this will be a good idea, right? And then it's like, no, nothing about that seemed like a good idea. I don't know why they did it.
Yep. So I think that's it for the news here. We'll reset this episode here. Chapter 5, Return of the Mandalorian, Book of Boba Fett, airs on January 26, 2022. This is our fifth ever episode recap on Sky, guys. So this is the first show we did. Written by Jon Favreau. He wrote most of the series. Directed by Bryce Dallas Howard. And very fun episode to like a kick-ass Mandalorian episode as a Book of Boba Fett episode at the time. I know we got heat because we said this is a about the Book of Boba Fett. This is nothing about the Boba Fett storyline. So that we got crushed on the real time, Pete. We remember that correctly.
Let me tell you something about this episode. This episode, if it was in The Mandalorian, would still suck. I'm just gonna straight up say it. Might be a hot take, but nothing happens in this freaking episode. Nothing. Nothing. Half of it is him and Mando working on a friggin' N1 starfighter, then him getting pulled over by the cops. He takes a commercial flight, can't bring the guns on, oh boy, and then he goes to the armor in the beginning. You're not a Mandalorian anymore. You took your helmet off. Nothing happens for anything in this show. Not for The Mandalorian, not for the Book of Boba Fett. Crap. Absolute crap. I think at the time we were high on it because it was like, okay, finally something better than what we were getting. But when I watch it back, nothing happened in the hour or the 40 minutes, whatever the hell I wasted my time watching it again. Nothing happened.
Yeah, it felt like the sort of like character, like sort of like, like we're moving the story forward episode where we had four big scenes basically that stretched 45 minutes between the fight at the beginning, the scene with the armorer, building the ship, and then running into the cops. Like that was basically the entire episode. It was probably 10 minutes too long, I feel like, if you look at it in that sense. But Nick D, like, what do you think going back and watching this one like about 4 years later?
Yeah, I think that it was like a fine episode of The Mandalorian. It wasn't really a Book of Boba Fett episode. 'Cause I like the way it starts. I like him struggling with the dark saber. I like him, I like how that whole opening sequence I think was pretty good and then pretty gruesome too for a Disney Plus Star Wars. Like, you're seeing him cut the dude in half and chopping off his head. Um, but it seems like it feels almost like that was the idea to start a season three of Mandalorian. And then because they had to shoehorn it into Book of Boba Fett, they had all these other things. They're like, well, we got to stretch this out and we got to do the ship. And I know how much this podcast loves Peli Mata. I know you guys are huge fans of her. So it just
I
kind
have
of like
thoughts today.
rewatching it now. Yeah, I kind of I'm not as like negative on it as I think like but I'm also not like crazy about it. I'm kind of like neutral on it. I think it was fine. Yeah, it just felt like 10 minutes too long is a good way to describe it. It could have been a little bit shorter. You didn't need the whole traveling on the commercial flight. You could have, he could have gotten a ship a different way. It felt like they had to do too much to make it work with Boba Fett.
Yeah, I would agree with that here. And let's get into this episode here. We'll bounce around a little bit. I will say it's very funny, Pete, watching the previously on, like, and then going into this, you're like, knowing what's coming next, like, we really did nothing in the first four episodes other than Boba Fett and the Pikes having a turf war. That's basically all you need to know from the entire first half of the season that you need to know for where it ends.
Let me tell you something. You don't need to know shit about this episode, or excuse me, about this show to watch this episode. You can start Book of Boba Fett this
Right
episode
here.
on, and you can kind of figure it out.
Yeah, the previously on gives you everything you need to know about what happens that you need going
I
forward.
didn't even watch the pre-scene. I didn't even want to deal with it. I was just like, skip, skip, skip. We don't. Okay, great. And then he goes into the meat locker, kills the turtle people. Skip, skip. Okay, we're building the ship. Skip. I don't need a 10-minute montage of Boba Fett doing that. But anyway, you can literally just start the show here and you're fine.
Yeah, this is the Mandalorian 2.5 cut, basically. Like we start here, go through episode 7, and then you'll have some weird stuff in 7 with Boba, but like
The show didn't even get 8 episodes. Like it didn't even get 8 episodes.
yeah.
Couldn't even make
It,
the cut.
yeah, that's true. So Nick, what's something you want to talk about from this episode?
How much I love Peli Motto. No, I think I don't know. I don't want this to just be like a bashing episode. Maybe we all need to take a deep breath and just, like reel it in. I did like the dark saber stuff. I did like the flashback specifically of like the Siege of Mandalore, seeing that in, I mean, it's not live action, but seeing it in, CG live action, like that was pretty cool. I think the whole history of the Mandalorians and going a little bit more into Bo-Katan, like that all was pretty cool. Um, I don't know what else. Yeah, you know what I mean? Like
Yeah,
that. I
I
think
think
that was
yeah,
pretty sweet.
I think the most interesting part of the episode is when he gets himself back to the armorer and Paz Vizsla, where there's just the three of them, and like they found they're the ones left from the Navarro group. Apparently, everybody else died in the siege from season 1, and then we get the whole like the info dumping on the dark saber. We get the Beskars thing like forged into the armor for Grogu. The training sequence was great, and like the armorer is great in this episode in terms of like teaching like Mando, hey, like you're fighting the blade. This is why it's so heavy for you, like. And like I did also laugh, Nick, like when like she's sparring with him with like her Beskar like tools, and like at the end she's like just like bonks him on the head with the hammer. Like at one point
Yeah.
that got me laughing a little bit.
I thought it was funny too when they're sparring and he just falls off.
Yeah,
I was like, oh my God.
yeah,
But then like nobody was panicked. Then he just gently like goes back up with his jetpack. I don't really fully understand how gravity works on that thing because like
yeah,
if he kept falling, would he have fallen off? I don't know. The whole Halo kind of ship thing was pretty cool too.
yeah.
It was very, Halo. It was very like Mass Effect. It was that was cool to see. But yeah, when she just bonks him on the head, that was pretty funny.
POG about the armorer stuff here. Like we spent a lot of time with her. First time we've seen her, I think, since the end of season 1. First time we've seen Paz since the middle of season 1. So what do you think about what we got here with them?
No, I think this is probably the best part of the episode for me. I will say that, earlier in the show we talked about how watching the Clone Wars is helps elevate these episodes. This actually is almost like a detriment to the episode because we knew everything pretty much about Bo-Katan Kryze. So we're just kind of sitting there like, yep, like Mando's figuring out, but we know, right? We understand. Doesn't delegitimize the part of the episode though. I still think it was well done. I think the armorer has a good way of portraying stories. She's a good storyteller. At least she's written that way. So I wish we got more of the armorer actually like just throughout. And I think that's something we've talked about before in the past, but it was a good part. I mean, if you segment the show out or the episode out, this is definitely one of the higher moments.
Yeah, and you get this also great moment where like when the whole Paz Vizsla drama, when he sees the dark saber, you can't yeah his head you can tell he's just seething because he's like, this is my family weapon, like, and he's got it. And then we get the fight where they're challenging each other here, and despite the fact that Mando just doesn't trust him, he still finds a way to beat Paz. And then we get the whole sort of setup for season 3. Basically, gets his marching orders where he has to feel like, oh, like I took my helmet off, and she's like, okay, you got to go bathe in the mines of Mandalore, be forgiven. And she's like, you're banished. You're not here anymore. He's like, I thought they were. Like I thought they were, destroyed. And she basically gives him the sarcasm this the way it's like basically the not my problem. You figure it out. I love that from the character.
Yeah, I do like also that like the I obviously that scene was the best scene in the whole episode, I think. When when the armorer's like, "How did you get that cut?" and then he pulls out the dark saber, Paz Vizsla's like without I mean it's a helmet, but it conveys really well. You could tell the way he looks at it and he looks at the armor, he's kind of like, "Oh." He's like, "I want that. Like I deserve this." And even the way he picks it up and brings it over to her, he's you can kind of tell already like he's gonna try to take this from him, and like they did a good job of doing that without even seeing faces. I think that was done pretty well.
Yeah, and Paz was a famously voiced by Jon Favreau, so like very fun to have that character there. And the fight itself was pretty good. Like Pete, I will say.
Yeah, I mean, I've seen better Mando fights. I don't think it's the best fight he's been in, but I mean, it was still good. I think I really like the way that they struggle to use the dark saber. That's a little bit of lore that you would understand if you watched Clone Wars and Rebels. So to see them struggle to wield the dark saber, I think was also a nice little Easter egg in there that they conveyed pretty well.
Yeah, so I think it was good to have the armorer here. And again, I don't know how many people who strict Mandalorian watch actually saw this episode in the real time. They may just watch two episodes of both as if this is going nowhere, I'm out. But like I do think like this is helpful for people who have not had the time to watch the animated shows to sort of have the armorer be your info dump, basically explaining, okay, here's what you actually need to know. And if you want to go watch it, it's on Disney Plus. But if you don't have time, here's the 10-second version.
Yeah, I agree.
All right. I want to touch on this fight at the beginning because I think this is a really underrated way to start the episode and reintroduce us to Mando because we have not seen him by himself since the first episode of season one, realistically, where he's not worried about Grogu in any sense. And here, he we see him going back to bounty hunting. We see him with the dark saber. He gets the infamous line like, "You can bring you in warm, I can bring you in cold." And I did like Nick pointed out earlier, the brutality of the fight here, especially when you see like he's cutting himself with the dark saber. He doesn't know how to use it. He's like literally like stabbing people with the thing. He's beheading like a guy. Is he cutting people's arms off? Like this is pretty gory for a Mando episode.
Yeah, yeah. Well, that's why I was saying it before. I'm like, that was a cool way to start it. It almost kind of felt like though, like because tonally it was so much different from the Book of Boba Fett. If you look at this in the context of like the Book of Boba Fett, you're like, whoa, this is cool. Like, who's this cool Mandalorian guy? Like, yeah, this is awesome. But if you look at it, like, I wonder if you just watch it right after season two of Mandalorian, does it feel like are we just doing the season one intro again? Because you know, like the way the season one starts, it's very you're like, whoa, this is gritty and this is cool. Like, does it still hit the same way when you don't watch the Boba episodes, or is it, you know, because he even says his like, I could take you cold or warm like line, and it's like, if you didn't watch Boba Fett, you're like, yeah, I already know this, you know, like. So I wonder, does it take it away from? I still think it was a really cool way to start it for sure. But I'm almost kind of like, who is this for?
Yeah.
Like, was it for Mandalorian people? Was it for Boba Fett people? Who was it for? I'm not sure.
I think it hit for me, P, on the rewatch. Like I was riveted with the scene.
Lost the mute button. Put it in your bingo, Nick. Make sure you put that
Yeah.
on. I also have a white screen on, so now everything's just bright.
Yeah.
Give me a second. So, um, you talk about the line, right? The bring him in cold
The whole,
thing,
the whole fight
whole
sequence.
thing. Let me tell you something. It it I agree with Nick. I think that if you watch Book of Boba Fett and you go through four episodes and then he comes back, there is definitely that sort of like, I'll call it nostalgia, right? The character's back. We didn't expect him to be back. He says famous line. I think if you just watch it like we did, it's like great. I will say something I noticed was that the voiceover for that iconic line seemed like they ripped it from a different episode. It didn't fit how Pedro Pascal was saying the lines throughout that scene. It seemed like it was thrown in there, maybe like almost like the volume was a little higher, kind of a thing. That is just me being overly sensitive, I think, to things when I watch stuff. Like I look for continuity issues and all that kind of stuff. So I found that very interesting. I know they're not going to make him re-say the line if he already has the line. But I agree with Nick. I think that it's cool, but I think it does lose a little bit of his lust. It just doesn't have the excitement anymore if you didn't go through 4 episodes of Boba Fett.
Yeah, it's like you're kind of, going through, like if you're going to like I think a good way to describe it is like if you're kind of, going through the work day, you go through your work week, it's boring, you're kind of going blah, nothing's happening, then you go home and you like turn on like for Nick's like it looks like you guys are both like hockey fans, like put the Ranger game on. If they're not great, you're like, oh, this feels fun. Like this is exciting. This is different than my boring routine that I've been going through for the week.
Well, I don't know if the Rangers were the right example right now, but your point is accurate. Yes.
Yeah. Yeah, it's kind of a sugar high also, where like you eat your vegetables, you're like, eh. And then you have like the first taste of like a cookie, and you're like, oh, like this is fun. Like, it's like it wears off pretty quick.
Yeah, yeah, and I I think like I'm just curious if this was Mandalorian season 3 episode 1, would do you think people would feel differently? Like would it be rated higher? Would it be rated lower? Like how do you think people would feel about this overall if this was the season 3 premiere and then what we got in season 3 was like actually season 4 or something?
I think this would have been received better. And I think remember also, Pete, like we didn't get season 3 until 2023. So like you would have had a long time without him. So I think you would have been more like, amped up to see him come back.
I think the same effect would have happened. Um, the way I describe it almost is like if they decided to discontinue like vanilla Coke and they only discontinued it for like 2 weeks. And it
Yeah.
came back, it was just like, oh, we just waited 2 weeks. But if they discontinued it for like 4 years and they brought it back, it's like, oh man, I used to love vanilla Coke. I'm so glad it came back, right? So I feel like it's the same thing with this. Like it depends on the time. If you're binge watching and you watch it back to back to back and you don't watch Boba Fett, it's not going to be as good. But if it's like a season 3 opener or whatever, I still think it has that kind of wow factor because you haven't seen Mando in a while.
Yeah, it certainly does here. And I will also say one thing I noticed here is that like Mando is very quietly loaded because like he turns down money on multiple occasions in this episode where first he turns down the payment for the bounty. He's like, hey, I just need the information. Like, where am I going to find these Mandalorians? Like, he turns down the reward there. And then at the end of the episode, when Fennec shows up to hire him and like pay him, he's like, okay, like we have money for you to go help us with our pike problem. He's like, nah, this one's on the house. So like he's all of a sudden just does not care about money for some reason.
Well, I think he doesn't care about the money because the first bounty is just, I think he's really looking for information on the armorer,
Yeah.
right? And then when it comes time to like Boba needs some muscle, that's sorry, that sounds so silly saying that. Like Boba needs muscle. When Boba Fett needs some muscle, I think he's just like he's such an honorable person and like Boba Fett helped him out. So he's like, I will return the favor for sure. So I don't, I think he doesn't care about the money, So, or maybe he has a fortune because he did pay for that ship from everybody's favorite Palimata, So I don't know.
Yeah. Well, yeah, that's true here. And I will say, like, on the rewatch, I know in the real time, Nick Frieda loved the TSA scene basically, where like he's dropping all of his weapons in the container. And Nick Frieda, I know when we covered this episode in 2022, basically said, oh, like, it's cool to see how the common person who doesn't have their own ship travels here. For me, watching this again, I'm like, this felt like just like extra comic relief we threw in here just to watch him dump all his weapons in the box and then have the little like Rodian kid like become like try and become friends with him, and then we see the Rodian kid at the end of the episode when he flies his ship over here. Like this to me was like, oh, okay, this was fun, but like it went on too long.
Well, I as my background indicates, I'm in a hotel. I've traveled so much in the last 2 months for my job that that scene actually kind of hit for me because I've been in and out of so many airports that I'm just like, and I'm I'm an IT guy and I'm bringing all this equipment and I've had to open my bag so many times and be like, yes, there's a computer in here, there's an iPad in here, there's all this stuff in here. So like that hit for me, but if I don't know if that would hit for everybody, but for me that hit. I thought it was funny.
Yeah, Pete, I know you had complaints on the TSA scene. You want to air them here?
It's comic relief.
Yeah,
I understand where Nick Frieda comes from, where it's like he wants to see how the day-to-day normal person Star Wars like commutes, lives. Nothing about Star Wars is normal. Like we don't need it. I appreciate it. I hear what Nick Freya is saying, and I understand that that's a cool part to understand so that it pushes the boundaries of the not normal to normal in that universe. But it was comic relief. It was funny, cool. We don't need it. It's like you just like we talked about in the beginning, it's 10 minutes too long. I would even say 15, 20 minutes too long this episode. It should have been two scenes and that's it. So that's why I can take it or leave it.
Yeah, and also this is the look at the normal person in Star Wars before we get any Andor here. And I do think this makes it look worse. Like now we've seen like what the normal person looks like in Star Wars in Andor compared to what like Favreau writes in Boba Fett.
Maybe.
Yeah, I mean, I guess right because the normal person in Andor, it's a little different of a story. That's more of a like the struggle,
Yeah.
whereas like this is kind of more your common everyday person. Um, but yeah, if you're comparing the two, yeah, it definitely. I don't know if we should maybe we shouldn't compare Book of Boba Fett to Andor at all, because it's just not going to end well.
Yeah.
Um, yeah.
Yeah. I also will ask here for the people on that ship here, like, unless you have family there, why are you going to Tatooine for vacation?
Yeah, also Moss Eisley, right? Was that going specifically to Moss Eisley, or
Yes, it
did he
was.
go to Moss? Yeah, like isn't Moss Eisley supposed to be like not a great place, right? So
I mean, Peli tells us as much.
yeah. She also, if you want to talk about things that are revealed in this episode, some good juicy lore. The anatomy of Jawas is something that
Yeah.
that gets revealed finally, and they make that joke a couple of times, and then they show her face, and she does some weird like licking motion, and I'm like, ooh, I didn't like any of that.
Yeah, I will say that I remember this is the episode in the real time thing that made Nick Fred infamously hate Pelimato. And I do think here, Pete, like we've been seeing her in season one and season two, where she's sort of comic relief and sort of like Mando's like wacky friend when he visits Tatooine. And like I think like here they sort of have watched the seasons air and saw the reception. I think they just amped up the goofiness on Pelimato to like way too far. And I mean, there's stuff here this episode. I mean, she's grilling roadkill basically when the Mando shoots the thing that's right. He's like, okay, we gotta cook it before it gets too stale. We got that. We got the stuff dating the Jawa. We got her basically hoodwinking him into free labor to build this ship that was not the one he asked for. It's like we got a ton of like very goofy Pelimato in this episode.
Remember, this is a time where the Pikes has started the spice trade in
Yes.
Mos Eisley, so maybe she's hitting the spice. Might be influenced by an illegal substance in the Star Wars world.
Yeah, maybe, but Nick D, do you feel like this is just like we just like up the goofiness on her way too much?
I think I didn't even mind because she's so quirky and like funny. I don't mind all of like the that stuff. The one scene where I was just like, what are we doing? It's when the Womp Rat thing grabs her by the foot and it starts dragging her behind the thing. And she's like, oh, it's got me and it's chewing, and she like can't pull away from this thing. I was like, this feels just a little too slapstick. I don't mind the like ripping parts out of a ship and being like, see, look, this is perfect, then slamming it on the floor. Like I think that's funny. I think yeah, just the slapstickiness of it was maybe just they turned it up to like a 10, and maybe it only needed to be like a 6 or a 7.
Yeah, I mean, this is also remember like she grills that Womp Rat that Mando kills to eat.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, did they actually grill it?
She
They didn't
tells
show
the
her eating
droids
it,
to
right?
grill it before the meat gets too like tender or gets too like stale.
Too gamey is what she called it.
Yeah,
Yeah. Do you think she actually did that, or do you think he
yeah,
was
she definitely
joking?
did that.
You think she definitely did it? I don't know. I like her. I think she's funny. I like her relationship with her droids. I think everything about these Mandalorian episodes in Book of Boba Fett just feels so shoehorned, though, because it's like they felt like they had to squeeze all these ideas into this show to salvage it. And I think because of that, maybe like if she's in an episode, if this was a season 3 of Mandalorian, if she's in like episode 2, and then she comes back in episode 6, you can just like show these little quirkiness. But because this is the only thing she's in, it's almost like they condensed it and compressed it, and they ramped everything up, and it felt more intense than it should have been.
Yeah, I will say though, I will give her credit for basically not only like conning Mando into basically like accepting the fact that she got him the wrong ship that he paid for. As he paid for it, it's like, no, this is better. She cons him into free labor to build the ship that she is supposed to be building for him.
Yeah, well, it worked. So she clearly knew what she was doing.
Yeah, Pete, like imagine like you went to your dealership, like let's say you're going to like the Ford dealership and you're going to like your Chevy dealership, like I want a Cadillac. Okay, I got you like a Range Rover and it's beat up. And but you know what? It'll get done fast. You help me put the Range Rover together.
To be fair, she said she found a replacement for the Razor Crest, not a Razor Crest.
Yeah.
So I don't fault her that much. She's on spice. She's on drugs. I mean, there's no other explanation, right? Like she's hungry, she's on drugs, the pikes are there. She's Pelimato. That's pretty much it.
Yeah, but imagine though if you went to your dealers, like you went to like your mechanic, and they're like, "Yeah, you know, this will go
I'd
faster
leave.
if you help me put the car together."
But see, that's Mando's fault.
Yeah,
You leave. You leave. You go leave. You go to a different dealership, space dealership ship.
it's like
I don't know how that works.
yeah, it's like she's the only mechanic he goes to. Like he does not go shop around.
Now imagine your mechanic asks you to help fix your car,
That's what I was
and
saying.
they're also high.
And
know?
eating
It's
a
on
rat
him.
and eating a rat that was in their dealership.
It's ridiculous.
It's on him 100%. He didn't have to do it. He decided to do it, and that's what makes this episode crap.
Yeah, I will say though, like, and also the fact that they fly, like, once he builds the ship, it does look cool. The fact they fly through Beggar's Canyon just to, like, hey, you love the prequels now. Let's go visit the pod racing course. Like that was literally just nostalgia.
See, I kind of I think that was for people like me because um crazy hot take here. I love the Phantom Menace. I'm a Phantom Menace apologizer. I support it. I love pod racing. The fact that that movie is like 40 minutes of pod racing, I'm like, no, 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 give me more pod racing. So seeing that, I was like, oh, cool. This is cool. They're going through the thing. But I think I might be the only person that cared about that.
Yeah, Nick was literally going wizard when he watches that scene.
Oh yeah, and
It's a
Wizard,
good
yeah, that's
scene.
the thing that the kid says. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, they bring that back, and like the visuals on that were cool though. Okay, I'll give them that. It looked really nice.
It was a good scene. I enjoyed it too. I loved pod racing, back when I first saw the movie as a kid, and um, I still think it's a pretty cool concept. For like, I think they aren't they making a pod racing game, or they did something like that. It's coming
Yeah.
out soon. But yeah, I thought that was a pretty cool part.
Yeah. I do think also, I think we kind of covered most of this there. I think the last thing that I touched on is just the scene where he's going on the joyride. He gets another ticket from the cops because he's flying too close to commercial spacecraft. And then you see he's learned from his last dealings with the New Republic in season 2, where he's like, yeah, like my bad, I didn't register. Yeah, I just bought this thing. I'm test driving. I'm gonna fix it. And then Carson Tava's there because of course he's there. He's everywhere. And we learned that he lets you go let him off because he helped out with a situation on Navarro, and he basically implies it. And then we ask Manda for details. Manda runs.
Always getting pulled over by the cops.
Yeah, maybe he should have made the ship all chrome. Maybe it would have stood out as much.
Yeah, and if you watch the episode 2 and you know what's going to happen, they spend a lot of time focusing on that like button that makes the ship basically jump really fast without light speed. So like, that pays off in the end, and you're like, oh, he's going to press the button, and then when he just takes off, like I thought that was pretty cool.
Yeah. Yeah, I think it's it is a fun thing here. Like we talk about the end where remember, oh yeah, there's actually a Boba Fett episode because we get him in here. And I remember at the time, Pete, when we watched this episode, where I think Nick was like, they're not when man is like, I gotta go visit a little, like let's say a small friend. Yeah. Nick was like convinced, like we were at the debate time, oh, we're gonna see Grogu next week. It's like, yeah, we're getting Grogu and Luke Skywalker. And it's exactly what happened.
He called it.
Yeah.
I think also just for like deep cut podcast sake, I think the actor that was the cop that wasn't Carson Teva, I think that's the stand-in that they used for Luke Skywalker,
I think you're right, actually.
but without the deep fake face. So I think I remember like when that happened, people were like, "Wait, that's the guy that played Luke Skywalker. Are we going to get Luke Skywalker again?" And sure enough, we did.
Yeah, we did get that, which was a fun little shout there. And we'll also say couple things I noticed here is like they seed a lot of things for season three in this episode. If you look carefully enough, obviously you have the bit where Mando gets his marching orders. Basically, you have to go to Mandalore and redeem yourself and bathe in the mythical waters here. You have that line drop with Gideon about Gideon when he's talking to Paz Vizsla how like, oh, he's arrested on the Republic. He's get judged for court. Like he's gonna like probably be executed. And Paz is like, I don't think so. And that basically works out here. And you mentioned during Pally Miles thing, R5 is there, and we see R5 is a big part of season three.
I think
Which
that's more of my theory that this was supposed to be season three, and
Yeah,
then they just had to kind of chop it up because they do plant the seeds. So it's like this probably could have just been the season three.
Yeah, because I mean, like, if you drop these things in the beginning of season three, and maybe like our mid-season event is, Mando getting to Mandalore and dealing with that, like, maybe we save ourselves a couple of things that like really stretch season three out, and like really they add stuff in that didn't make sense.
I agree with that. Just,
It,
I mean, we talked about when we were watching Book of Boba Fett. This should have just been season three, just like Nick D said. This should have just been the start of season three. And you could have got rid of some of the season three fillers.
yeah, I don't think we get Jack Black and Lizzo if this is season three.
You're correct. You don't.
Yeah, I think we also probably lose the Pershing episode, or at least is very much cut down. But I do think like I would sacrifice that one to not to have the Jack Black and Lizzo thing exist.
I will say that the amount of things that you need from these last three episodes of Boba Fett probably can amount to one episode, maybe one and a half. So, like, you could probably still do a decent Pershing episode. Maybe you do get Jack Black and Lizzo still. Um, so I don't know if it's necessarily cutting out a lot, but it does trim the fat, if you will, of season three.
Also, remember too, like we have an episode. I think it's season four and season three. It's like I think it's like 29 minutes. I think it's the fourth episode, and I think it's like that's the one where Pazza flies in the dragon's mouth, and we have the extended Grogu flashback in there.
Right.
Where I think we're just stretching for time. Should we hit the 8 episode order? Where I think
Right.
we took 2 episodes out of the season, basically.
Right.
Yeah, because even if I that be a couple remember a couple of weeks we discussed like what happens if they don't have the Boba Fett reunion here. Maybe it does happen in actual season three, but like I still never forget, Nick D, when we roll into season three and Mando and Grogu there, they don't give you any like post like any pre-credit reminder of like what happened here. And then like I think Carl Weathers, Grief Karga there, R.I.P. Carl, like says like I thought he went away. And he's like, it's a long story.
Yeah, right. Actually, yeah, if you think about it, if you just watch season two
He went right to
and
three.
Grogu goes away with Luke, and then you start with three, and you're like, wait, did I miss something? Like, was there a season that I didn't see? Like, and there's really no indication, right, in season three that like of what happened. It's just you just kind of have to accept it.
I think the word used like it's complicated, I think was the word that Mando used to Grief.
That's
Somehow Grogu came back, Somehow Grogu
it's
returned.
such a bad that's such bad writing though. Like you can't have such a huge character and be like it's complicated. That's why you don't do what they did by putting Mando season 3 in a different show. I mean it's
That's
just a
why that's again the conspiracy theory. I always say I think that order came from above. I don't think that came from Favreau.
oh, yeah, no. For sure. I mean, my thoughts are they could have just made season 3 the last episodes of Book of Boba Fett. Book of Boba Fett comes and says, "I need your help with something." You get the context right then and there. They fight or whatever. They get Grogu back, and then you continue the story. I mean, I think it could still work. Um, you don't need a Book of Boba Fett show, but that's a whole nother.
Yeah, we'll continue that conversation another week. I think that's pretty much it for the episode here. You would say?
Yeah,
Okay.
I think we spent a lot of time bashing because it's fun to bash on the Book of Boba
Don't
Fett.
get me wrong. There's good stuff in this episode. I just think it's
Yeah,
too
yeah.
long.
There's good stuff in the episode for sure. It was a pretty solid episode of The Mandalorian.
Yes.
You know.
Yeah, I think it was a solid episode of The Mandalorian here. Since this is the first episode post season two on Mando, I will also take the time here. We will go over our Mando stuff here for season two. So I will start out here. I'll go with the full MVP board for season two. So here's where we're standing. And Pete, before we do the movie, I will put the full series up, including the Boba Fett MVPs on our movie preview pod. All right, so to go here, season two, our MVP was Mando at +5, Ahsoka +4, Moff Gideon +3 are top three. Then the +2 cluster, Carson Tava, Bo-Katan, Grief Karga, Mayfeld, and Luke Skywalker. Pelimano got a +1 from me hoodwinking Mando in season two. And then we have Boba Fett got zeroed out basically after his finale LVP points. The LVP's -1 group, Pelimano's Dumb Droids, the Tusken Raiders, the Mining Collective that Cobb Vanth scares off in the flashback, Frog Lady from Pete, Grogu from that episode, the deck officer gets up blown off the ship in chapter 11, the Mythrol, the Titan Stormtrooper Captain in chapter 14, R2D2 for basically showing up just to show up in chapter 16, -2, the Titan Stormtrooper Legion, and Pete's -2 for Jon Favreau. The Navarro Imperial Base and the Empire get -3, and Lang, aka Michael Bean, -4 is the LVP of season two.
All right.
Okay.
Like
So we also have the episode ratings for season two. Nick, are you interested in this?
This is of Mandalorian.
Mandalorian 2 episode rankings.
Yeah, I'm curious about this.
All right, so we will go through the list here. The top, not a surprise, Chapter 16, The Rescue, 8.75, so not quite a 9, but it was close. Then we had Chapter 15, The Believer, 8.67, which I think got higher than I thought it was going to get on the scale from us. Chapter 13, The Jedi, 8.63. Then Chapter 14, The Tragedy, 8.5. Pete, the back half, top 4 episodes. I know you said you feel the back half is better than the front half of season 2.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Then Chapter 9, The Marshal, 8.17. You have a tie for 6 in Chapter 11, The Heiress, and Chapter 12, The Sea, 7.25. Then there's a big cliff, and then there's The Passenger, 4.13.
Yep.
Those
I'm
are
surprised
big.
chapter 16 is not a little bit higher. I don't remember your guys' takes on it, but
Well, then
wait. This is the original rankings, right?
this is what we did when we on the rewatch. We hadn't
Right.
read
Okay,
on the
that
time.
makes sense then. Yeah, because I think initially it was way more hyped, and then rewatching it, it's kind of like good but not as hyped, right? Is that kind
We
of the vibe?
didn't have Andor as the perfect 10 yet.
Right.
I think that was the issue.
We didn't also grade it in the real time because we just like got together and talked about it.
Right. Yeah.
Also fair.
I also think I will say I'm surprised at how well the Bill Burr episode did in the grades. It definitely ages much better on a rewatch than it does in the real time.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah, and just for those who are curious, the Passenger was not the worst episode of the show according to us. It was the episode from season 1 with Toro Calican, the one on Tatooine. That's got a 375 on the overall rating.
Wow. A 375. Wow.
But that's consistent for the most part. Like 70 episodes above 7, which is above average. So it graded pretty decently for season 2.
Yeah. See, I think season 2 was pretty good. I think season 2 ended so strong that you would think it was amazing, and then you go back and look at it, and you're like, yeah, it was pretty good. It was a pretty good season that ended really well.
Yep. All right. Also, so in the real time, we did cover this episode on the Sky Guys. So I did go back into the archives. I pulled up our information here for the MVPs and LVPs here. Nick can add his in. He was not there in the real time. So in the MVP section, unsurprisingly, went with a clean sweep of Mando himself. He's the MVP according to us here. So Pete, would you retroactively change that? You think that's fine?
Who else is in the episode? I mean, the armor is good, but I mean, she doesn't do as much as Mando, so I give it to Mando still.
Nick, who would you have given it to if you were giving an MVP this week?
Yeah, I think it's got to be Mando. I think because he's the star of the show. He gets his bounties. He does exactly what he wants to do. He builds a ship. He gets away. Like it's his episode. I don't see how you give it to anybody else.
All right, the LVPs. This is another unanimous sweep for us here. We all went the writers in the real time because we said that this is not a Boba Fett episode, so you get dinged for that here. So, in retrospect, here, Pete, this is 3 more for Jon Favreau.
Let me tell you something from a very, 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 very literal sense. Horrible Book of Boba Fett episode.
Yeah,
Zero Boba Fett.
and
Zero.
you and I got murdered for that, like in the real time.
So many how it's like if you went to go see a Transformers movie and all it was Harry Potter. Like it makes I understand it's 2 universes. I'm comparing episodes, but it's like it's not. It has nothing to do with Boba Fett. Like nothing.
I think the more apt comparison view is like if you went to go see a Fantastic Beast movie and Harry Potter showed up.
Sure. Thank you. Better, much better analogy. I think the Transformers Harry Potter thing's funnier. But exactly. If you had Fantastic Beasts as a show and 2 episodes, 3 episodes was just Harry Potter, it's like, why? So, let them come for the comments again. Like, it's just, I don't care if it's in the Book of Boba Fett. It doesn't make it a good Boba Fett episode.
Yeah. This is episode, like literally a 7 episode season. One of the episodes, the main character is not in it outside of the intro.
Fennec Shan gets more airtime in this episode than the title character.
Yeah.
And she's only in the show for 20 seconds, not
Yeah.
even 15, 10.
He did get a credit though, Ted Morris. He obviously got paid for that week.
Listen, good for him. Again, not his fault, but like, how can you say it's a good Book of Boba Fett episode when the dude's not even in it?
Yeah. It was, yeah, that's why I think like we like adjusted our grades. So this is the grades as a Mando episode. We ended, I think like in the Boba Fett ones, I think like you were not gonna get like threes, I think, like as a Boba Fett episode. Because we said it's fun, but it's not Boba Fett.
Imagine this was the other way around. Imagine there was a Mandalorian episode where it was just Boba Fett.
Ted Morrison is ass right. Said I should take over Mando shows and took over mine.
It's only fair.
Yeah. All right. So to add in here the grades, I pulled the grades and we rated just as from the Mandalorian perspective here. In 2022, you and I gave it a 9. Nick Freya gave it a 10.
I mean, after 4 episodes of Boba Fett, I think anything that was remotely a story was going to get a good ranking. So
yeah,
it makes sense.
The way I looked at it, Nick D, and I'll give you the floor second for your LVP and your grade for the week here. Like kind of like you're wandering through the desert for a month and you're barely anything to drink, and you find a lukewarm water bottle sitting on the table, and you're like, oh, I need this, and it's like this is so good.
Yeah, I think that's kind of the vibe of it because I think so. For I guess well, just my LVP, I would to not just like say the writers. I would if I'm gonna pick a person in the episode, I'd probably say like maybe Paz Vizsla because he tries to take the thing and he fails pretty bad trying to use the Darksaber too.
Yeah,
give him.
He just get punked by Wounded Mando.
Yeah. And then as far as my grade, I think if this is like in the Book of Boba Fett, yeah, this is like an 8 in comparison to the other episodes. But if this is just like a Mandalorian episode, I'd say this is like, using the Sky Guys 5 as average, I'd say this is like 6.5, maybe 7. I think it's better than average, but it's not anything spectacular.
I think Pete, if I was to regrade, it's probably give this about like a 7.5.
I'm giving it like a 5. Nothing really happens. Like you get like starting points to certain things that you don't even get until season 3, but like nothing really happens. Like I can sum up this whole episode in 2 sentences.
Yeah.
Like I hate to be that way, but like it's just an average episode.
Yep. That's it for us this week on that one. And next week, we're continuing the journey of the Road to Mandalorian. We're going to chapter 6. Like, from the desert comes a stranger here, otherwise known as the Super Cameo Party episode, Pete.
Great. I love it.
Yeah. I mean, what other episode of television, Nick, can you get Luke Skywalker, Ahsoka, Cobb Vanth, and Cad Bane all in one episode?
Yeah, there is a moment in that episode that I really like a lot, but I don't want to say it now. I'll listen to you guys next week and see if you guys talk about the moment that I really like a lot. We'll see.
Yeah, and R2's there again also.
Right. Well, R2's got to be there if Luke's there,
Yeah, so I think that's a good spot to leave it here this week. We'll be back next week for chapter 6. Pete, if you want to follow you on social media, how can I do that?
At Consy29 on Twitter, CONSY29, AP Tyler 308 posted this background on Reddit. Make sure you check him out.
Nick, thanks for coming by. If you want to keep up with your Twitch stuff, how can I do that?
Yeah, thanks for having me. Go to twitch.tv/the recovery room. Right now we are playing through Final Fantasy X. We're going back in time a little bit. So yeah, come check it out.
That's a pretty good throwback.
Yeah, I'm playing it and I'm like, oh God, this game's like 20 years old. And I'm like, this didn't come out that long ago, did it? But it holds up surprisingly well. So yeah.
I mean, you're playing 10-year-old game, 20-year-old games. We're watching 4-year-old episodes. It's all throwback season.
It's throwback. 2026 is the year of throwbacks.
Yep. So on me on social media, M Phillips 331. It's MPHILIPS 331. This is Just on the Suffering podcast. We're getting ready for March Madness here. It's champ week in college basketball, and got ready for the Big East tournament here, Nick. So I know you're playing to fill out a bracket, so you're planning to watch some basketball this week.
Uh, a little bit because I fill out my bracket completely randomly and try to piss people off, and sometimes it works out. So I watch games for that.
Yeah. Yeah. So obviously this week got a lot of fun games coming in here. If you're a college basketball junkie, Pete, and I know you're not, I will say here, this is the most underrated week of the season here because like all the drama you get from March Madness, like multiply it by 10 of teams trying to get into March Madness this week. This is fun.
It sounds like March Madness has begun. We are in
Yeah.
March, so
Yeah. Yeah. As a great college basketball writer will say, this is March. All right. We'll be back next week. Chapter 6 of the Mandalorian season 2.5, the Book of Boba Fett. Until then, may the force be with you.